Hello there, everybody. We are back with another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And we're not the only things that are back. PFL Europe is also back. And it's another year, the second year after, I would say, a brilliant first year of PFL Europe. It delivered. It gave us some very good new prospects. The season itself was pretty good. I was at the finale. That was good. I have very little complaints, honestly, about the PFL opening season. I feel like it has produced, as I said, some good new fighters. It has brought along some younger fighters. Some of the fighters are back in for this season. And all in all, what it's designed to do, it did. Now we move ahead to PFL Season 2 in Europe. And I'm very interested to see how it looks and how it goes. Now, first of all, let's draw a few how would we put it, points, theories out of what we know so far. So, as I mentioned, a few fighters have come back. That's fine. A lot of the new younger fighters, I suppose, that have come into it are, I would say, interesting. We'll get back to that in a second. And what I have noticed is there hasn't been a whole pile of the new Bellator fighters that have come in, that have, engulfed it, or the young prospects from Bellator haven't come in, like the likes of Dara Kelly, the likes of Kieran Clark from Ireland and more around, haven't, become part of this. Maybe there's one or two that I'm missing, but none of the kind of the bigger name prospects, like even say someone like a James Gallagher maybe, or I know James is fighting towards the world level now, especially his next fight, but there's no one of that ilk who has come into this. So I think, and by the way last year went, and by the way they're looking at it, in my opinion, this is a talent making process for the PFL. And I think that it is, I'm not exactly breaking news at that, but it could easily have become something different, because I think they have actually the talent to make it something different. This card we're going to talk about here has Cedric Doumbe on it, and it has Lazy King on it, but neither of them are in the tournaments, even though they're both out of in the welterweight weight class, and that's not in there's a welterweight tournament, and they are not in the welterweight tournament, right? They have all the lads I just mentioned earlier on that they could put in it and make this like a super tournament, a super prospect tournament even. But they're not doing that, because, well, I'd love to ask Dan Hardy. Maybe I'll actually get Dan Hardy on at some stage, and I've had him on before and ask him those questions. But my opinion would be they want to build people up. They want to matchmake them evenly on the way up. They want to get people who maybe haven't had the chance yet and build them up, and then put them into maybe the rosters. Whereas say the likes of Dara Kelly, Nathan Kelly, Kieran Clark, for a few Irish guys, they're already kind of established in the promotion and on the way up. So I'm kind of disappointed in a way. I wished we had that. Maybe that's another tournament that they could do. Maybe that's another season that they could do. Maybe we could do like I don't know, the seniors and juniors of the PFL Europe or something else. But on the other side of it, then I'm not disappointed, because I think it's smart. What they did last year, what they produced, was absolutely phenomenal. They were like, I was actually, funny, I mentioned Dan Hardy. I was talking to him before the finale, and I said the amount of talent that has emerged, I suppose, on this is huge. At this point last year, when I analysed all the fighters and I did my first preview, you can go back and watch it, I was very excited about a lot of them. Right? Very, very, very excited about a lot of them. I don't feel that as much here, but wait till after this card and maybe things will change. There's a few lads here, I feel like some lads getting an opportunity that maybe, they aren't the prospect, or in my opinion aren't the prospect. They might become that, right? There's some other lads that are maybe a little bit older getting the opportunity, who I'm like, maybe it would have been better off giving it to a younger fighter and things like that. But all in all, they have stuck to what they have done last year. I think the welterweight tournament, again, the welterweight tournament now, okay, the lightweight tournament, very young up-and-comers. Welterweight tournament, a lot of young up-and-comers. But the welterweight tournament, is kind of an exception to what I was saying. It has the likes of Ken Musa, right? Daniele Scatizzi, and a few more. It is a little bit of a step above the production line, I think. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about it more, but I think they've stuck to it with the lightweights. They've stuck to it somewhat with the welterweights, adding in one or two, and I'll be interested to see how that unfolds. But all in all, like looking at the whole season, obviously we're concentrating on the welterweights and the lightweights today. There's more coming, obviously, which we'll talk about in the coming weeks. But I just wanted to kind of set the stall out here, and it's funny. I went from saying, they're doing all new prospects, they're just doing prospects. Then Ken Musa, it was they're as I said, exceptions to every rule. But I think the kind of point I'm getting at, they didn't make it the super prospect tournament, right? Which they possibly could have, and as I said, although that's a bit disappointing, probably the right way to go. And trust Dan Hardy a damn sight more than you trust me anyway. So that's a good decision. Right. Let's get into the card and let's talk about it. So I'll run you down through the card first, just so we don't get any of these conflated or anything like this. So the top two fights, Cedric Doumbe versus, here we go, Baissangour Chamsoudinov. Nailed it. At 170, not in the tournament. Not part of the season. Jack Grant versus the Lazy King, Abdouraguimov, also 170, not in the tournament. Right. So then all these fights are in the tournament. Ibrahim Mane versus Nosso Pedro, Yazin Kishun against Ignacio Capella, Jacob Kazuba against Ken Musa, which is just an unbelievable fight. Yassin Najid against Daniele Micheli, Martin Dimitrov versus Erkan Kartal, Conor Hughes versus Anatoly Bal, Alexander Shiva versus Daniele Scatizzi, Thomas Langowski against Florim Zindelli. So those are all the tournament fights, and then there's two other fights opening it up. Actually, I believe there's one in the middle as well. Where's that gone? Patrick Habuera against Claudia Pichella, very new pros in that. We won't talk much about that one, but the other two kind of showcase fights, Yusun Najid against Kevin Dale. Again, that's a 4-7-1 guy against 6-5 guy. That's kind of for the local market. But then Andreas Binder against Mark Ewan. Andreas Binder 8-2. He was supposed to fight on the last card, but missed weight, didn't he? I'm kind of surprised he's getting this big opportunity. But delighted to see another Irish guy on here against a very good top prospect in Mark Ewan 5-0, which obviously also isn't on the in the tournament. So let's get to it and let's go through the card as fight by fight. So the top fight between Cedric Doumbe and Chamsoudinov. Look, the last time we had Doumbe, the last time we were in Paris, it was insane. Kylian Mbappe was there. Half the PSG team were there. It was insane. The full crowd. He got the 0.45 second knockout. It couldn't have gone any better. It really, really couldn't have gone any better. And I suppose what the PFL are trying to do is trying to recreate that. And if they could recreate that, if it was a similar sort of fight, if Mbappe is there, if Doumbe gets the knockout, it'll be unbelievable again. If this is a thing that they can recreate, money, absolute money for the PFL. We'll get into the fight in a second and see if they can do that. But I was a little bit surprised as well that Doumbe hasn't been moved on a bit, that he hasn't been moved into the tournament, that they aren't, kind of banking on him more to become that star immediately. But maybe they're looking at him as a star, as a headliner who's going to move to the top of PFL or Bellator or whatever it might be in top fights. I was looking him up on YouTube there and saw Jason Jackson calling him out, and I wonder that they want to see him as that fighter. They want to see him on the maybe on the pay-per-views and all, because a lot of people are very, very excited about him. They want to see another vicious kickboxer coming through and becoming, the guy. Look what the UFC did with Alex Pereira and many more down through the years. And Pereira probably the best example out of all of them, a two-way champion in like 4 fights. I think PFL are smart to do that. If he gets knocked back, if he gets a loss or whatever, build him back up again, no problem. He's still only, young in his career, if not that young of a fighter himself. I like what they're doing with Doumbe. I think it would have been, again, It would have been cool to see him in a tournament. It would have been cool to see him tested against maybe a better level of competition, although we'll get into his opponent, Baki, in a second, whose nickname is much easier to say than the rest of it. But I still, you have Doumbe, you have something special, protect him. So, as I said, he's 5-0 now with 5 knockouts. We all remember the last one against Jordan Zebo. A lot of people, I saw people calling Jordan Zebo a tomato can and all. I previewed that fight before. That guy's a good fighter. There's no doubt about it. He's a good fighter. He fought Paul Kilmas before that, who's not a bad fighter either. But now we're kind of moving on. He's fighting a, 22-year-old, 7-0 guy who, fought Efren Escudero on his last fight, a UFC veteran. Now, that fight was, not the best, but he fought Bobby Pallet 2 fights before that, who, maybe doesn't have the world's outstanding record or anything like that, but he's 6-2. He was 6-0 at the time. He's he beat Matt Bonner, the former cage warrior champion. He's a win over Ireland's A.O. Daly and Dylan Manning as well, who are 2 good fighters. This guy, absolutely, and that's Pallet. He beat him, obviously. To beat him, you have to be no joke. And watching some of his fights, he definitely is no joke. So let's talk about him first before we get to Doumbe, because I feel like a lot of people maybe know about Doumbe. Well, we'll go with Doumbe first. Power. Absolute power. He dips inside and makes people fear the clinch. I love the way, that dip inside is an important thing. And let's just talk about it for a second. I think for a lot of kickboxers, they are terrified of the clinch. They're terrified of getting close. But Doumbe almost makes it a weapon. He gets so close to you that when he lets off a shot, he's in a range to knock you out. And he makes guys quiver because of that. So when he does that dip inside and throws that overhand, he's done it twice now. It's very easy to look at one massive knockout in front of Kylian Mbappe and go, oh, that's the way he does it all the time. But he's done that multiple times now. And it makes people fear the clinch. It makes people fear taking him down. It makes people fear pushing him against the cage. And I'm not sure if it's the thing I've seen much before. But outside of that, he waits on the outside. And he banks on that power. So he'll take his time, wait for you to make a mistake and hit you. And that's that. Obviously we haven't seen him pushed a whole load yet. We'll see how the takedown defense holds up the more he gets into his career and all of that. But as we have, what do I see now, right? We see a young, well, maybe not that young, but a raw, what age is he actually? I keep calling him not that young, 31. He's rather younger than me. We see, a green MMA fighter who's an absolute beast of a striker, who I see sprouts of intelligent ways to make him a well-rounded mixed martial artist, or to make his ability part of a well-rounded mixed martial arts arsenal, a little bit like your guy Alex Pereira, a little bit like Israel Adesanya, whoever else it might be, right? So, back it in at the other side of it, I'm so glad I saw his nickname. My first piece of notage about him was a beastly left hook. He's a metronome of a fighter. And what I mean by that is he kind of steps and meets you and throws the left hand non-stop, perfect cadence. I saw the Kelsey brothers talking about cadence the other day in the American National Football League, obviously. And it's something I mention all the time here. I love looking at a guy's that sounds weird. I love looking at a fighter's cadence. You can tell a lot about a fighter by their cadence, And if you're a fighter, you look at someone's cadence, that's how you beat them. You beat their cadence. And Baki's cadence it's really good. It's, as I said, metronomic. His jab is absolutely lovely. The right hand is nice after it as well. He's powerful, very good in the clinch. He has a body lock takedown, very strong, vicious ground and pound. He's not the best top control guy in the world, let's put it that way, because he gives space. But at the same time, I'm sure if he gets Cedric Doumbe down, he won't be giving him as much space maybe as he gave other guys. With that said, does he pose a challenge to Doumbe? I would say he does. the biggest problem with a guy like this versus a guy like Doumbe is you look at his striking and you think, okay, right, Baki's striking is very good. Baki's a good striker. There's no doubt about it. But he's a good striker against the 7 lads he fought already. Is he a good striker against Cedric Doumbe? I don't know. Like, will he be able to get off that left hook against Doumbe? Will he be able to get off that beautiful jab and shots to the body against Doumbe? I just don't know. The clinch, as I said, Doumbe very good at what he does in the clinch. But if you can actually get the clinch, you're set. It's before you get to the clinch. It's like the set of the clinch where Doumbe attacks. But if you can get to that clinch, you could do work there. And as I said, Baki, very good clinch. I give him a chance. I absolutely give him a chance. He's a very, very good fighter. This again isn't a layup at all for Doumbe, but I think Baki will strike with him for a bit, which will be a mistake. I think Doumbe will, a guy with that level of kickboxing will be able to figure out the cadence of a guy, 7 fights into his MMA career. I think he will. And I don't like giving my picks. I like just breaking down fights, but I have to give my picks. This is, the PFL Europe picks and predictions, so I will give my predictions, but ignore them. I'm here to talk about the fights. I want to have fun talking about the fights. Doumbe. Right, let's move on and let's talk about the next fight here, which is one that's I think probably more interested to me than a lot of people, I think. So it's the Lazy King Abdouraguimov, who's 17-1 against Jack Grant, who is 19-7. And I've covered Jack Grant for a long time now. He's 32 years of age. Obviously he fought against my countryman Ian Gary for the Cage Warriors title. Been around Cage Warriors for a long time. Fought a lot of the champions there, from Gary to Aggie Sardari at lightweight to Joy Herbert at lightweight. He's fought back in the day against the likes of Jack McGann, Perry Goodwin. For years and years and years, he fought some of the best guys in the UK and around the world, and Ireland as well. And after that Ian Gary fight, I think a lot of people were like, he's had a few, he's had a few losses now in title fights. What's going to be next for him? But, got back against Nathan Jones in Bellator, won pretty handily there, destroyed him in that fight. Then he went over to Brave, had a fight over there. He was off for a couple of years, won that fight as well. And now the PFL have picked him up. And I think it's a very good pickup for him. I think it's an interesting matchup here against the Lazy King now. Is it an easy matchup? Absolutely not. Jack Grant's style. We saw him, look, the Ian Gary fight, I think, kind of shows it to a certain extent. Although does it. Like, he's a BJJ black belt. Ian Gary kind of went to the ground with him. Gary did very well, but Gary's one of the top 5 best welterweights in the world. I don't think anyone would argue outside of 10 maybe, but so, to go 5 rounds with him was a valuable experience. But, he's 9 submissions in his record. He's able to stick with guys on the feet. He's able to stick with guys on the ground. He's able to beat most guys on the ground. And he's a real test for people, a real test. He's only, been finished 3 times in his career. One of them to Joy Herbert, and the others were back in 2016, 2015. So, if you're talking about the last 8 years, only been finished once, only been beaten 3 times. This guy is a real good fighter. The Lazy King might just be one of the best fighters in the world, though. That's the difference here. He's taken 1 loss to Jaral Al-Shalawi, who he beat in the fight before it. And we kind of, people know how that went. There was exhaustion and madness and all in that fight. And he's been on, a real run since. His last fight, he beat Brad Wheeler. Before that, he beat Rafael Hartig, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the champion over in Cage Warriors, in KSW right now, who's won 3 fights since them and beaten some very good guys there as well. So, you could and look, there are some guys on his record that aren't the best, but he has some good names on it as well. Like Doumbe, 5-0. I think they're fine holding him where he is. the Lazy King, let's get going now. Let's start putting him into the biggest, baddest, best fights you can. I'm talking about, Jason Jackson level here. I'm talking about the best of the best which they have. Jack Grant is a good fight. It's it's a good test, but this guy should be fighting the best of the best. And no offense to Jack Grant, he just I don't think he is that. I think the Lazy King will we'll get takedowns here. I think he'll be good on top. Grant is dangerous. He's a lot of chokes. He's a lot of odd chokes as well. He caught Matters Flaminis in an anaconda choke. He's a few guillotines, rear naked chokes, arm bars, calf slicers on his record. So he'll have to be wary of him. But I think the Lazy King will have enough and will do it in that one. Let's move on to some of the seasonal fights, and I'm going to pick out a few of the top ones, but we'll mention a little bit of all of them. Ibrahim Mane versus Nosso Pedro is one of the ones that really sticks out to me. I said in the welterweight division they have some of some of the more how would I put it? Experienced fighters. Although I'm just looking here, actually, the K Musa Kazuba fight, that's actually at lightweight, so I take it back there in the lightweight division. This is one where what I was talking about earlier, the raw, young, up and comers are seen. Now, Mane 12-4, 8-3 for Pedro. They're greener looking than that, Mane, 34 years of age, so still not the youngest, but he fights young. I would say, he's fought a lot in Aries and Brave over the last while. I mentioned Brave earlier on. He's fought in Bellator. He lost to Alan Amadovsky there, which was, a tough fight, I suppose, at that stage of his career. But he's, raw. Raw is the word from him. Raw power, raw grappler, very good counter right hand, good, counter double, you would say. When I say counter double, he'll counter with a double shot, but he'll also counter you with a double leg. He'll take you down. He will, and he looks good there, and I think he should probably do it more. But he's good at getting the underhooks and defending the takedown. But for how long? That's the trouble. But Pedro on the other side of it, a vicious striker. He flings in his shots, flings them in. He's slightly more put together, I think, than Mane. And kind of fights with the high hands. Maybe doesn't have the best cardio in the world there. Look, there's a few fights like this where there's two lads who are very similar, kind of thrown in there against each other, and kind of made a best man win type of thing. I think Mane, as mad as he fights and as raw as he is, he kind of holds it better, I think, than Pedro. And I think if the fight goes longer, that might actually stand him. This is the sort of fight normally you look at a guy like Pedro and you think maybe he'd have the advantage over Mane because of the way he's kind of slightly more put together in terms of a technical fighter. But I think that drop off in cardio in a couple of fights I watched him in might be an issue, whereas, as I said, Mane is good with it. Plus, I think he'll have the advantage early. Like if there's someone knocking someone out, I think it might be Mane. Now he doesn't have a load of knockouts, but he looks like a guy who should have more knockouts maybe in his record. A lot of decisions as well for Pedro. So this one could be a bit of a longer fight, could be a close one, but I'm gonna pick your guy Mane in that one. The next fight then we're going to look at in the lightweight division, again, two of the younger raw guys. You'll see what I mean now as I go through them. There is a lot of the younger raw guys in it. Yazid Kishun against Ignacio Capella. Yazid, 34 years of age. Obviously, he was there last year. He lost to Dylan Chuk in the finals. Or the semi-finals, even, if whatever you want to call them. Won a fight before that. He's been in there with some good guys down through the years. He fought Yves Landu, Mohamed Yahya, and others as well. Capella 7-1 out of Spain. It's a mad time for Spanish MMA now. He did a very good win over Ago Husic on Anthony Pettis' card there back in 2022, but he hasn't fought since that. Watching both of them fight, is interesting. Yazid, he kind of fights in bursts, throws combos. He often turns his fight, and I think I said this about him last year as well. His fights often turn into kind of low output fights. He doesn't give much, he doesn't take much. Capella, on the other hand, then very nice left hook and an overhand. But if you control him, they're not as effective. Turns vicious when he gets inside. He has a bit more power as well. It's an interesting fight. I think it's the sort of one that if both of them kind of meet each other in the middle and throw hands, I think this is the sort of fight where lads will get dropped, they'll get back up, they'll drop the other lad, they'll get back up. But if they kind of fight on the outside and wait, it could be tough. I probably just lean towards Yazid Kashoun because of the level he has fought at. Capella only 7-1. I remember watching him for a fight before, and kind of I think he might have been booked on some big fight somewhere. I remember watching him specifically and kind of thinking, this guy come back to me in like 5 years, and this guy could be very good. So that's why I'm kind of going with Kashoun here, and the experience. Although, the betting lines will be out later in the week. When I look at this again, maybe I'll change my mind on that one. Then we have the matchup between two guys who are probably above the level of most guys here. Jakub Kazuba against Kane Moussa. This probably should be the main event, if we're being honest. But obviously Doumbes are obviously Lazy Kings are. I'm definitely not complaining. They have the card right. But if we're talking about the best fight with the best fighters, this is it. Kazuba won the tournament last year, and he's back to fight again this year, and he was the standout. To me, it depends what your definition of emerging worldwide prospect is. But in 2023, for me, if it's, let's say, guys who haven't reached the top of haven't got towards the ranking, I think Ian Gary was the guy last year, but he was ranked number 7 by the end of it. So it's tough to call him emerging prospect. If you're to talk about a guy who actually emerged, his 3 wins last year, Radu Maxim, Dylan Chuk, and John Mitchell were phenomenal. This guy's a really, really, really good fighter. At 11-0, at 28 years of age, he has the world in front of him. But he's fighting a guy in Kane Moussa at 37 years of age, who I feel has been just looking for a chance for a very, very long time. He's 14-5 now, but he's a guy I think who has improved and improved and improved over the years. That win over Georgi Karkanyan was very good, but he comes in the next time, then he loses Thibaut Gouti. He lost to David Galan before that via decision. I think he's a type of guy as well who got a little bit unlucky. He's the type of guy as well who fights, he'll fight in Batman one fight, he'll fight in ACB in the next fight, get a big offer. He's in Bellator, he's in Celtic Warrior, now he's in PFL. He's been that type of guy the whole time, and that's the way he wants to be. But I think for going on a run, for going to that next level, it's kind of held him back a little bit, I think. But this is a dangerous fight for Jakub Kazuba. Moussa hits really, really, really hard. Again, the record maybe doesn't show it. He's only 5 knockouts out of 14 and 8 decisions in there as well. But I'll tell you, ask Georgi Karkanyan or a lot of lads he went to decision with. He's good. He can stop the takedown. I'm very interested to see this. Kazuba, on the other hand, he's just well-rounded. There's no doubt about it. It's very hard to give a breakdown to someone like Kazuba or the new age of fighters, because what you want me to say, he's a very good striker, he can jab, he can throw the backhand, he's a very good wrestler, he's very good on top, he's very good jiu-jitsu, he has it all. There's I love the phrase known weaknesses, and I once said it, I don't know that I said it or did my podcast partner over Severe Meg Graham said it, but about Gunny Nelson, and since then I've been like, well, maybe we shouldn't throw that out there too much. Although Gunny's a well-rounded fighter, I'm not taking anything away from Gunny, but Kazuba's one of them. He just is. He's so good. I love watching him fight. I will pick him to win that fight, but at 11-0 against the guy as dangerous, Ken Moussa's nickname is the Danger. That's the fight that's the fight when it comes on. I'll be putting down my Coke Zero, sitting up, and like, oh, here we go. I won't be taking my notes. I'll take my notes in the rewatch for that one. But love that fight. Absolutely great fight. I think we kind of did move back to the prospects coming through, and even then, you know, I said maybe lads who are a little bit older maybe wouldn't meet the prospecting here, and I think this is one of them. Yashin Najid, who's 38 years of age, taking on Daniele McKelly, who's 36 years of age, 11-5 versus 9-5. Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. Bit of an odd one here to have in this tournament when you could have, you know, top prospects on it maybe. But anyway, that's what they're choosing to do. That's what they choose to do. Just Najid, clinch, takedown, guillotine. That's what he is. That's the type of fighter he is. Daniele McKelly, people might remember him. He fought Peter Queally. It was the eye poke fight. Only, jeez, it feels like only a few weeks ago. But he's a switch stance fighter, submission guy. Been in with a lot of good people, but kind of lost most of them. Sorry. As I said, 36 years of age. A bit odd to see him in there. But I think what they have done, right, with the guys, I would say it's a bit odd to see in here. They've matched him very well. You know, 2 submission guys, 2 guys who want to fight on the ground. Let's throw them in there. Let's see how it goes. So that's that one. I don't think I'm going out much of a limb here to say I don't think we'll see the winner of the tournament coming out of that one. I would say maybe not similarly, but the Marian Dimitrov versus Erkan Kartal fight. Dimitrov 10-4 against 11-2 Kartal. Now Dimitrov, I watched a good bit of him before he fought for the Cage Warriors title against Christian Leroy Duncan. That was back in 2022. He lost that, and he's only had 1 fight since. He lost via armbar in that one. And his opponent, as I said, 11-2, but he's fought at a good level as well. He fought David Zavada. I watched that fight. It actually was a doctor stoppage after round 1. I think he dislocated a rib or something like that, and he was winning that fight, or you know, close anyway, and he looked very good in that fight. I like both of them, but, you know, 31 years of age. I'm not sure. We've no age here for Marion, but I think he'd probably be in his 30s as well. Not exactly the prospects coming through, but still good, solid fighters in there. Dimitrov, I don't know how to say this, and the American people listening to this will probably give out to me, but he throws his left hand like a baseball. You know, like you're throwing a baseball. He just flings it. Absolutely flings it. Kill or be killed. That's what Marian Dimitrov is. And a lot of the time he gets killed, to be honest, in his fights. He is very open, just hands, no kicks. He's been fighting a lot of bare knuckle and stuff like that over the last while, I think. Good on top, but he always looks like he'll get subbed when he gets on top. Just looking at his record here, how many times has he been subbed? 3 times, yeah. So I watched one of his fights anyway where he got subbed, but yeah, he always looks like he's going to get submitted in his fights. Kartal on the other side of it then, quick, power, counter hooker, I would describe him as. Throws from the hips, absolute madman, talks to his opponents in there. The only thing I would say is he becomes predictable if he doesn't knock you out. Someone's getting knocked out in this fight. I'll just go with Kartal. I think the longer it goes, oddly, because the way Dimitrov is built, but I think I might favour him. I'm interested. I saw Kartal in a few fights, and I just wonder, you know, will the body betray him a little bit? And it's weird. I watched the Zavada fight, and okay, like it's probably a bad fight to watch because the body did betray him in that one, and like you can't hold the guy to just that. But there's signs of it in others as well. He did lose via TKO injury against Christian Junert, a fight I actually didn't even see, but there you go. I watched a few of his other wins. I'll still go with him. I'll go with Kartal to win in that one. Then we have Anatoly Bal against Connor Hughes. An interesting fight in the lightweight division. Connor Hughes obviously was in the tournament as well last year. He's 8-1 at 26 years of age. He's only lost to Dylan Chuk in a phenomenal performance by Chuk. Spoke to the lads over in the All Triangle podcast, and he's not in the tournament this year. I think he got caught for smoking weed or something, and they didn't put him in the tournament because of that. They were going to ban him, but they didn't ban him, or I don't know. But yeah, he's not in the tournament anyway. But Conor Hughes is back, as is Anatoly Baj, 31 years of age, 10-3. Both of these guys have a similar. Their last opponent is the same, Sebastian Santana Guedes, and funny, one of them took him down, and the other one tried to get taken down by him. So that'll tell you the difference, I suppose, between the two of these lads, and I suppose how they fight. Hughes is a power striker and a good wrestler. Let's put it that way. He's kind of an open switch stance style, throws head kicks, fights very tall. Ball on the other side of it in, good takedown defense, straight up striker, hands high in front of his chin kind of, but very green, very open when he attacks. You see some guys hit the body, and you know, it's funny, Dan Hardy was telling him to hit the body in his last fight, as was or was he to use anyway. When he attacks the body, he's wide open up top, like wide open. Strong though, and he's confident. He's one of these lads that his best attribute is his confidence. When people try to take him down, he takes them down. He fights short. I said earlier about Hughes fighting long. I'm going to go with Hughes. The only drawback I would have on Hughes is kind of what Toot did to him last year. He kind of fought on the outside and didn't let him get anything, really. I don't know that can Bal fight the same way. I think he will come in. I think he will try to hit him. He doesn't attack that much, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think he will attack a bit. And I think Hughes will land those big strikes. I think the fighting tall will beat the fighting short. So I'm going to go with Hughes. Although that's maybe the biggest toss up for me on this card. But yeah, looking forward to seeing. I think it's a good matchup as well there. As I said, a lot of any complaints I have about maybe, okay, should this guy be at this level in terms of the age they have, not so much the level, but you know, what the level should be maybe. I'm okayed with that thought by the level of matchmaking. I think all the fights, every single fight in this has been made well, right? Individually. If they were to fight other people in the tournament, would it make as much sense? I don't think so. But what we have is good. Another standout from last year, Alexander Shizov fights Daniel Eskitizi. Again, very high quality matchup here in the lightweights. And I suppose the difference between that fight and maybe Anatoly Baj, or you know, even Capella maybe a little bit is big enough, I think. But this fight is a well-made fight and a good fight as well. Shivas is, as I said, 10-1 now at 26 years of age. He 10-1 even. He drew with Antoine Duke last year and didn't make it all the way. His only loss was back in 2017. He's fought around Europe an awful lot, and obviously coming into the PFL now for his last two fights. Skitizi from Italy, but fighting out of SBG Ireland for a good long while now. You know, he's been in there with some really, really good fighters. We mentioned Jaral Al-Shlawi earlier on. He's been in there with him. He's been in there with Daniele Micheli, as I mentioned, beat him, fought Marvin Vittori back in the day. You know, has a win over Gavin Hughes and David Galan, but has fought, you know, Vladimir Tokov, Alfie Davis, Charlie Leary, some really, really good guys. And again, another guy who maybe him versus Kane Moose would probably be a good fight. You know, two guys who've maybe plowed a similar path and have just maybe not gone on that run, but are good, well-rounded fighters. You know, and we'll see how it goes from here. Again, well-rounded is the words I always use for Daniele Skitizi. What was the fight I was watching back? Let me just look here. I can't remember which one it was, but he's better wrestling than you'd think, Skitizi. And maybe it's just my bias from I always view him as kind of this, you know, good cadence again striker who is, you know, well-rounded, but you view him as a striker. But no, he can wrestle as well. He can fight on the ground. And that might be interesting here against Shivas, who is just brilliant on the feet. Lovely leg kicks, nice jab and 1-2. Jabs to the body so well. The left hook to the midsection and then high, brilliant as well. He's varied, lovely, bouncy, comfortable fighter. Very good on the ground too. You know, as much as I want to show a bit of Irish bias here to the guy fighting out of Ireland, I think I'm going to have to pick Alexander Shivaz in that one. I just think he's one of the top prospects coming out of there. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. Though, good big opportunity for Skitizi, because if he wins that, he's on his way. He really, really is on his way in that division. The last fight then in the tournaments is Tommy Langovsky against Florim Zindelli. This is an interesting one. Langovsky, how would I say it? Not the best fighter in the world against Zindelli, who's very green. He's long, he's a good right hand, but not technical. He's a good double leg, looks better on the floor, looks good on the ground. Langovsky is southpaw, throws front kicks, all action, but gets countered. He kind of hits you once for every 3 times you hit him. But it can be effective for him. He wants a war. Not the best takedown defense in the world. I'm just after seeing here, Langovsky's nickname is Mad Dog, and that is the perfect nickname for him. 6'4" actually. I'm mistaken there, but fights an awful lot. Had 3 fights in 2023, 3 fights in 2022 as well. Again, I was a little bit surprised. He's lost 4 of his last 7 fights. To see him in a tournament like this, 5-1 guy as well. I suppose you would put Zindelli as one of the prospects coming through. He's only lost to Morris Abevi, who is whose name I know. And why do I know it? Because he fought in one championship not too long ago. He lost to Halili Mir, but he came back and beat Blake Cooper. He is a good fighter as well. There's no doubt about that. So, win over him says an awful lot. I'm going to pick Zindelli in that, just because I think his takedowns might be the key to win it. If it gets into a war at Langovsky, he could be in trouble. But and he has gotten into a war. I was watching one of his recent fights where he got into a war and it didn't serve him well. So we'll see if he's smart enough, I suppose, to stay away from that. The last 2 fights, I kind of mentioned them earlier on, then we'll just touch them here slightly. First of all, Younes Najid fighting out of France, 38 years of age. He's 6-5 in his career. At 38, having made his debut back in 2013, he went away for a while and he came back, fights every so often. We'll see how that goes against Kevin Dell, who's 4-6. Yeah, I could. Odd. I wonder, is there a reason why that fight's on this? I've no idea. There is a reason the Binder and Ewan fight is on it, though. 2 very good prospects. Like Andreas Binder has taken a lot of chances over the last while. Like, the level of opponents he has fought without being in a big promotion is massive. He fought Rostam Akman, former UFC fighter. He fought Chris Stringer. He fought Aidan Lee. Some very, very, very good fighters. Even on his way up, he fought Dermot O'Bukala, who no one else covering MMA at a world level would be able to say as well as me. In his first 2 fights, one was a no contest and one was a win for him. All the way up, he's fought good guys and he deserves this break. Even as an amateur, he claim to fame. I should always say this. He's the Joseph Duffy of modern Irish MMA. He beat Ian Gary as an amateur. He's the only guy ever to beat Ian Gary, I believe. So that's his claim to fame. Mark Ewan, then everyone in Scotland's talking about this guy, about being the next guy. He won it Bellator 299 against Noah Gunyan. So I was talking about a couple of the guys coming over from Bellator to PFL. Now he's not in the tournament, I should say. So maybe I'll pull that back, but he's very, very good. I was I was at that fight. Obviously, he was on in Dublin. Very impressed by him. He looked very, very, very good. And that's a banger of a fight. A banger of a fight. Who's going to win that? I'll go with Mark Ewan. I feel like I'm being very unbiased today. I should get a medal for being this unbiased, but yeah, I'll go for Mark Ewan to win that one. All right. That is it for the start of PFL. This has been long. I usually do a half an hour video. This is 3/4 of an hour video. So you got a little bit extra today out of this one. But I'm very excited about this. And I'm looking forward to what's coming over the next couple of weeks again. But we will be back with those previews and everything else. Keep it tuned. Keep it locked here to Sherdog.com. I'll leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for that wonderful website of Sherdog.com. And I'll see you all next time.